Hi, and welcome to the Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central webinar. My name is Duncan Kerr, and I am the pre-sales architect for Infinity Group, specifically focusing in on Business Central. Today, we're going to cover several things, but I wanted to initially talk about digital transformation 2.0 as we see it here at Infinity Group, and what that means to you as an organization, covering the four key areas that we believe you should address when looking at digital transformation and seeing how successful you've been with that. I'm going to look at how you're going to convert from data through to information and therefore use that information to act upon to drive your business forward. And finally, we'll wrap up with suggestions on how you can get started and how we can support you in that process. First of all, we wanted to just cover who Infinity Group are and also set the scene for the Microsoft ecosystem. So we are a value-added reseller or VAR, and we have a range of services. We offer consultancy, both business and technology consultancy, and our consultants cover the whole range of the different solutions we have here. We focus in on digital transformation for many organizations. This has been a common phrase that's been used over the last 5 to 10 years, and we believe that many businesses have attempted to do this and have not successfully achieved that, particularly through the pandemic. I'll be discussing that further in the presentation. Underpinning all of those, we have managed services. So this is your help desk support across the whole stack of functionality and technology services that you might require. We have a UK-based help desk that's available to you. We have licensing specialists. Microsoft are notoriously complex when it comes to licensing, and we're often able to save our clients significant sums of money to ensure that they are compliant and also achieve the maximum amount of licensing for the minimum cost. Finally, although everyone's moved to the cloud and the requirement for hardware and particular services is diminished, people still need devices, they still need networking equipment, and we're able to provide that. More importantly, though, I want to focus in on the Microsoft ecosystem, which is in the center. If we deal with the left-hand side, Microsoft 365, then what we can see there is very much your day-to-day apps that you're already using. But I would hazard a guess that you're not using them as effectively as you could do, and you always want to know how you can use them more. Well, one of the ways of using them more is looking at this digital transformation 2.0, and how we might be able to leverage the licenses you're paying for, particularly around things like SharePoint, where you might not be using it for more than a simple intranet or maybe just basic document storage. On the right-hand side, Microsoft's Power Platform is their low-code solutions. These are different apps that are able to actually help you quickly achieve value through digital transformation. Building a small Power App in a Canvas Power App allows you to address a business function very, very quickly without having any concerns around the wider rollout of applications. Power BI, as we'll see later, is an excellent reporting platform. It's sat as part of what is now called Microsoft Fabric, and data is clearly core to every organization that we speak to. Power Pages is the ability to launch externally facing websites integrated into your data, but with full security, allowing you to decide how you're going to engage with your customers. Power Virtual Agents are well-known chatbots, which are being expanded all the time, particularly with ChatGPT, OpenAI, and Copilot, as we see, which is Microsoft's AI proposition. And finally, one that we'll see later is Power Automate. Most times when businesses have a challenge, often that is around workflows. And we find that Power Automate gives a whole range of different options there for you or us to actually help address those challenges. In the middle, we have Microsoft Dynamics 365. Dynamics 365 refers to a whole range of different applications that we can see there, from sales and customer service, which were the traditional CRM type applications, to Business Central in the middle, but also project operations, field service, and so forth. We're going to be focusing in on Business Central today, but happy to talk to you about any of those applications. And one of the benefits of working within the Microsoft Dynamics 365 ecosystem is that as your business changes and as your requirements become clearer and as you grow, we can access all of these applications and use those to address your business needs. Underpinning all of this is Microsoft Azure, the world's largest cloud platform. Microsoft Data First refers to the database platform that we can leverage as well, which covers both Power Platform and Dynamics 365. And right in the core there, we can see machine learning. We've got Copilot, which is Microsoft's AI engine, and we'll see that that's coming out in nearly all of the different apps above it. So you're going to start seeing that coming through in Teams, in terms of SharePoint, in terms of Excel, in terms of Word and Outlook, as well as in the Dynamics 365 apps. We'll have a little look at one of the early features of Copilot within Business Central later. So moving on to digital transformation 2.0, as we're referring to it. So in our opinion, many organizations realized that there was the need to move to the cloud. 5 or 6 years ago, before the pandemic, before the world changed, there were some organizations that were starting to embrace that. And they tried it. They've moved to Microsoft 365, for instance, and they've found that's given them some benefits, but it's not been a true transformation. Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, often refers to the digital imperative, and we believe that imperative has led to digital transformation 2.0. Now is the opportunity for organizations such as yourselves to actually address the journey of digital transformation and how far you are on it. And this should be a never-ending feedback loop. So we see that organizations have excelled in maybe one or two of these key areas, but not all of them. So it's an ideal opportunity, we suggest, to take a step back from a business perspective and look at all of these key areas. And again, we can assist you with that. We use Microsoft Catalyst for assessing businesses, and we could look at a business value assessment or needs assessment to actually help you bring this together from an external point of view. Often that review is useful. But let me explain what I mean by these 4 areas. Looking at the way that that you engage with customers has to be looked at and considered. Are they actually are they receiving the service that they demand? And are you providing that service? Optimizing operations, we see that organizations that have been successful no longer get tied up with manual processes, but are able to immediately address those and actually focus in on those exceptions that then drive the customer experience. Transforming products, we see new entrants into nearly every market, whether that's an Airbnb or an Uber. But also those products are brought to market very quickly. They're tested, and the data around that is analysed quickly to see whether it is successful. So you can go out there and fail, but fail fast. Finally, we know that we're seeing across a lot of industries that there is a real shortfall in the quality of employees and the ability to get employees that are highly motivated and engaged. And one of the things that we see through Digital Transformation 2.0 is the ability to empower employees. No longer should they just be there keying in information, working in a repetitive way, frustrated by systems, but actually granting them the ability to add real value to your organization is imperative. And by doing that, we not just with them higher remuneration, but actually that engagement and empowerment allows them to feel more valued within the organization and will improve retention. So each of these areas are generating data. And we're finding that that data is largely overwhelming. We can use things like Microsoft Fabric and data lakes to actually gather all of that data across the organization. So don't think of data as being siloed, but look at all of your sources of data and how you can bring those together. But then we need to take that data and actually apply logic, apply intelligence to it, to actually find trends, to identify outliers, to give you the information that you can use to run your business. And then ultimately, on the back of that, we can then act upon that and actually improve business outcomes. So I'm now going to sort of go through and show you a mixture of both these slides, and also we'll move over to a demonstration of functionality as well. If we can consider customers, we believe that customers are more and more mature, regardless of what industry you're in, and they have higher expectations. They're used to working with people like Amazon through, in personal terms, Deliveroo for food deliveries. They expect that service. They expect it much faster. They want it 24/7 availability, and they expect that higher level of customer service. And those organizations that provide those will succeed. We see larger organizations really struggling to provide customer service and actually falling by the wayside, with new entrants coming in and exceeding that. So a couple of areas that we think is very relevant to how you might work with customers is that we're seeing Outlook. So people still use Outlook, and it's still very much prevalent for the average users. We open up Outlook. I'm using the web version of Outlook because that's more appropriate. But in terms of you as a user, this is the web version, but it could be the on-premise version. But what we've seen is an email come in from Robert Towns here, and what I really just wanted to point out is that you don't no longer do you need to go out of this, join a VPN, connect through to servers, go and get those details. Whereas actually we can just immediately respond to our customer. So first thing I can do is I can look at my customer's email, open this up, and it's opening up Business Central straight away. So I've not moved out of Outlook, and it's actually using the details. So it's looking up that particular customer, and we'll see that that'll come through. And there is my details around the date and corporation. So I can immediately see that everything's paid up. They're asking down here for a sales quote. So I can see those details here. I can see all of the history, customer statistics, and everything else, and some dimensions, which we'll talk about later. From here, I can access any elements. I can see the contact details. I can send an email. I can go and get some of their history and send it if they needed a copy invoice. But ultimately, I can also click create a sales quote. By clicking create a sales quote, it's actually gone through and identified this language and identified these products here. So if I just select those two, I can click there, click OK, and that will generate a sales quote. Customer responsiveness is there. You can see the details. Come across here, we can actually see that it's brought in the pricing that's specific to them, and then click that and send by email. And that will go off and actually process that whole sales quote, generate an email, and off that goes there. There's our sales quote of details, and it's attached, and I can put in some details and send that off. So the benefit of that is that we've immediately responded to our customers' needs straight away. Now, clearly, we can see within here, that's just a quick example of embedded Business Central within Outlook. And across the stack, we've seen Microsoft connecting the two systems together. If I just go into Business Central, however, we can immediately see details here. And from here, I can go into a sales order. And again, it's about giving my customer details that they need to see. From any of these details, I can quickly go and create a sales order. Maybe I'm on the phone with them, select the name, Datum Corporation. It's filling in my details here. I've got a whole range of information that will vary depending on what you require in terms of due date, requested delivery dates. But pick an item. Let's choose an Athens desk. And as soon as I select that, I'm just going to sell them one of those. It's filled in the pricing. It's actually looking at the details there, and over here on the right hand side, I can see the sales line details. I can immediately see the required quantity. I want to look at item availability, available inventory, so I can see when goods are available. I can actually click through and see those details, item availability, and we can see that schedule there, and that opens it up. We can see who's buying what and where they're being consumed and used. So we can see the whole immediate value for the customer. So we're giving them immediate information. There's also the ability to go to planning and order promising. And here we can actually do available and capable to promise. It takes a lot of time to actually set up the data, and the data needs to be accurate. But isn't it amazing when you can tell the customer, just like Amazon does, your item will be with you on this date, and then we can then track that through with different tracking details integrated with shipping carriers. That expectation, your parcel will be with you, your desk will be with you on this given date. So let's move to operations now. So the problem that we still see in many organizations is that they manage to transform their Microsoft Office type applications, Outlook, Excel, they're now on the latest version, but they're still sitting there with legacy technical debt around legacy applications for their business processing, and in particular finance, because finance can be challenging. But the sooner you move on to a new platform, the better. And we can see that because you can then start leveraging some of the new functionality that's available. So one of the benefits of Microsoft Dynamics is that there is an app store called AppSource available to it. So should there not be sufficient functionality within Business Central to address what you require, then there's nothing stopping you from actually going in and looking at the app source to see if there's something that will address your requirements. The other thing is that technology costs are reducing significantly, and what used to be a very expensive process can now be far more appropriate for smaller businesses. So if we were to look at this is a demo portal. We've got Continia, 2 apps from Continia that have been installed. So a couple of things. So the first thing I wanted to just briefly show you is this. This is the document capture. So this is what used to be very expensive. It's called OCR, or optical character recognition. And what we're talking about here is that you'll have a purchases at infinitygroup.co.uk, and that ability to actually just import an invoice. So it's sent through via email, and you can see that the system is automatically identifying and reading the details of this. So we can, as we move through, different formats have picked up. So that ability to automate that capture, and it'll tell you if you need to specify account numbers, if there's some data that's missing, we can go through there. We've got the ability to do approvals, we can register them, we can address those all the way through. But the point I'm making is that this used to be very expensive technology. Now it's a matter of pence per document. But this sort of thing is repetitive information, moving your purchase ledger clerk away from actually processing of purchase invoices and matching those to purchase orders, and addressing better purchasing, lower cost purchasing, faster purchasing, making sure that you've got the right items in the right place at the right time. The other aspect to this, and you can see this is embedded here, we can see actually, if we go into here, we can see the actual unhandled expenses, is we've got expenses built in. So this is the Continia expense management solution. And clearly the idea of using typical Excel sheets where people had to key things in and then attach lots of numbered expense receipts, those days are gone. And we're now able to actually go straight in, and this is representing an app, but is the Continia app. We can see that loading up on an Android device, an Apple device, and we're able to go in and very quickly connect. So we can create new expenses, we can log a mileage, and we can use embedded Google Maps, so it'll actually calculate the mileage for us. We can create those expenses, and we can actually come in here and actually take a photograph of it, take a photograph of the receipt on the move. It will automatically scan that and try and read that, so that using that optical character recognition capability, and will then generate that and submit an expense. We've got per diem if we need that. There's also credit card receipts and that ability to match those and take a feed from the bank as well. So those sorts of things, every organization has people with expenses. Every organization has purchase invoices. So optimizing your operations is critical to make sure that these things are freeing up people in your organization to focus on more interesting transformational activities. That's operations. If we then move to products. So just to deal with products, one of the challenges that you've got is that, and products also cover for services as well. One of the challenges that organizations face is that they need to bring innovative new products to market, but they're very, very difficult to do on legacy systems. But more importantly, when they do bring them to market, they need to get immediate feedback, that feedback loop that we talked about earlier, to ensure that they understand what's happening in the marketplace. And that means that their employees should be released from creating these products and worrying about the systems and whether they can track it down and focus more in on this on the data that's being captured, and actually checking that information and pulling it from market if needed, making sure it's correctly priced, looking at all of those aspects of it. We can see that we're going to get increasing support from there through planning and capability, and we'll see later on. We'll look at the data piece. But let me just show you through product my Business Central system again. So one of the things that we're able to do is go through and look at items. So I'm just going to go and do that. Bring up spot items here. Refresh the screen. So that ability to create new items, I'll go in there. But by way of an example, it's 5. And here we can generate marketing text based on the attributes and details that are here against this table. So we're seeing it's drafting marketing text, and hopefully we'll come up with some information. So here we've got the Microsoft Copilot embedded within Business Central, and this is just one example of how this works. So you can see that this is marketing text and certainly more capable than I could write, given some details around here. So I asked it to, based on the criteria, the item attributes in the picture here, it's used Microsoft's AI engines and ChatGPT versions of that to actually go off and generate this marketing description. So this is an example of how we're seeing Copilot embedded within Dynamics. And what we're finding through that is that we'll see it coming in many other areas. So one other example of this is automatic bank reconciliation using AI to actually help match those transactions rather than simply on the document number and the value. We're seeing it come in terms of late payment predictions and for credit control. We're seeing it for stock forecasting. There's an element there. And the other one that's due out later this month in February 2024 will be the ability to use Copilot to search through your data and ask it real natural language questions of your data. Give me the top 3 quotes from 2023. And also how-to questions. How do I close off my year end? Those things that you don't necessarily know, you can actually use a natural language search, and we'll see that. We'll be bringing that to you in a demo fairly soon. So this is an example of where we're actually using our system to eliminate those repetitive tasks that we need to actually speed up our ability to take something to market with marketing text and actually try that out. The other thing, of course, what we can do is we can go in and we can actually use Power Automate on any of these screens to create an approvals flow, to create an automated flow to actually manage those. So we can see all of those details there. If I just show you an example of Power Automate and go to my flows, we can see here that there's a notify on Teams when a sales invoice is posted in Business Central. Go in and have a look at the details there. And actually, when we want to go and edit that, we can see that this is quite a straightforward, simple system where it's actually building up that sort of workflow. Now we can run a separate session, and there's plenty of other sessions from my colleagues around Power Automate and what that does, but it's now embedded across Business Central. So again, that speed of taking something quickly to market, getting feedback, getting it controlled, using this workflow engine is absolutely critical. And we can just demonstrate how that works by going through. That's very simply set as a sales invoice. And if I go in and create a new sales invoice, to one of our customers, and I'll just choose one randomly. I'll do Alpine Ski House. There we go. And then item, and we'll sell one of those chairs. Sorry, one of those desks. There we go. So we've created that. We're going to post that. And again, we could post that. We could post and send it automatically. Embedded Excel, it's just a given. If your system's not doing that, then you need to question what system you've got. But that's actually posted that. It's going straight through to the ledgers. Obviously, all the accounting functions are there. And what we can see, though, is if I go to Teams, we can see that Teams is embedded. So we'll see that in a second, there's that invoice notification. So I've decided that I'm going to have that notify me in Teams generally. But here we can actually see that integration, and if I click on details, it'll take me into Business Central and bring me back the information that I need. That's because I've got a license and I can see that information, see who it was invoiced to. We can also go to our chats and actually see under here we've got our customers embedded. So again, you're starting to see that cross collaboration, sharing a customer record with customer services, sharing that product to actually be working on pricing around product development much faster and much more collaboratively. So the final aspect that of the sort of digital transformation that we wanted to present back to you is and employees. So we've already seen that. So you want to hire and retain the best of the best, and you'll do that by giving them an interesting and engaging work environment, given the amount of time that people use that. And let's be quite clear that we've seen Teams, but also you've seen everything controlled today via a browser. So no longer do you need to concern yourself about where you're based. Working from home's easy, accessibility. There's apps for both if you have a tablet or your mobile phone for both Android and iOS. We've got access to anywhere. We've got the ability to integrate this with Excel and edit in Excel. That ease of use that we've got, very familiar, very clean looking platform. People take to it. The actual amount of effort it takes for training is much lower than it used to be because of all those features and the fact that your average employee is now more technologically savvy. So let's give them the tools that they need. So I just wanted to move on to the final element, which is the focus of digital transformation 2.0, and that is around data. So we've talked about some of the features that we've got for Business Central today, but let's just talk about data and what that means to organisations. And what I mean by that is that it's important when we look at how you set things up to ensure that you get the right reports that you need. Everything's about information. So if we start off, we're looking at Business Central. One of the first things that we need to consider is how do you want to manage your business? What are your KPIs? What are the things that really are important? If we come in here and actually I use this, which is extremely useful, it's called Tell Me, and here I can type in something called dimensions. Dimensions are critical to the way that Business Central is set up because it allows you to absolutely drive those analysis codes across the board in every single aspect, whether it's a customer that's been set up, a vendor that's been set up, an item, a job, a manufacturing bill of materials. All of these can have dimensions which will then be posted through to the general ledger. So clearly every financial transaction can then be analysed in different ways. And we can see we've got some simple ones, take department, you've got your traditional departments or cost centres, but also in areas you can actually see that the values here are nicely grouped so that they're presentable. But against a given entity, we can actually go in. So if we look at our customers and select our first customer, we can see our customer dimensions. And we can see that these are already preset. So when we're configuring our master data, our vendors, customers, items, and so forth, we can specify these so that the users don't need to worry. Again, moving away from that operational challenges, making it easier for the employees to just get on and do some more interesting work. And we can enforce this as well. So setting these up is really important. So making sure that we have a code mandatory or even a same code where we know that that's got to default in so that it doesn't get changed when people post, but more importantly, we don't ask them unless they need to make an informed decision using their, challenging the employee to think for themselves to actually decide which way this should be coded, what's the right way for that, what dimension code is the most appropriate one. But by driving that, you're then able to start producing all of the reports that you may want to do. So within here, you'll see that there's loads of reports. If I just clear that down, we've got our traditional Excel reports, and we can see all of those. They're built in. We can go to finance, and we can see our financial reporting, where we're actually able to present and analyse our different statutory reports and cash flow statements and so forth. If I just go in and have a look at the income statement here, we can actually see the details here, and we can drill down as well, so we can actually prove those numbers. But more importantly, there's our dimensions, and we can actually see which dimensions and filter by those. So again, you're starting to really see that analysis. So give me a P&L by cost center, give me a P&L by area, give me my profitability by product group. All of those sorts of things become very, very easy if you set them up correctly. And of course, one of the things here, we can always share that to Teams if we want to discuss it. We can edit it in Excel, we can open it in Excel, or we can share a link. So that ability to collaborate is paramount. But ultimately, all of that information and every other element of data that can be within Business Central can be rolled up into what we call Microsoft Fabric, or directly. So many ways of reporting depending on your needs, and we're happy to advise you on that. But ultimately into a platform such as Power BI. So Power BI is a part of Microsoft's Power Platform. It is their presentation, their reporting and desktop and dashboard layer. And this allows us to take data, build our own reports, give you the data, and you build your own reports. So it's very much a self-service piece. You can start building out things like this. And this is an example app from a company called eNotion. So it's an app that you can download and plug straight into your data. But here we can actually see finance overview, and we can start seeing this sort of rich information that will allow you to have a much more interactive engagement with your data, with your information, and able to make actions much faster. You can't be looking back into previous month's data to see how you performed. You need to know where you are right now so that you can make those decisions much faster. So that's quite a whistle-stop tour of functionality. Hopefully you'll find that really useful. I just want to wrap up with my final slide, which is back here. And so next steps. So we're hosting an event on the 27th of March around the Digital Transformation 2.0, where we'll have some of our customers speaking, and we'll be doing some demos and presentations. But if you need to speak to someone before then, or you feel like you want more of a one-to-one engagement, we talked about the BVA, the business value assessment, if you're not sure where to go around that transformation, or if you have a specific requirement, you've got end-of-life platform or an old legacy platform with technical debt, then please do contact us, and we can have a one-to-one conversation with you to see how we can support you in your digital transformation 2.0. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.